My name is Doug Gordon. I'm host of the show, Inspirational People, Inspirational Stories. The aim of the show is to interview inspiring people who've either been successful in their field or inspired others to success in some form. Today's guest is Enda O'Doherty. Enda is an inspirational speaker, an author, a teacher, and an endurance athlete. Enda went from depression and alcoholism to being one of the leading endurance athletes in Ireland. In 2015, he raised over €300,000 for a mental wellness charity by walking from Belfast to Waterford, doing the equivalent of 9 marathons in 8 days while carrying a washing machine on his back. He also did a charity climb up Mount Kilimanjaro, again holding the washing machine on his back. He's now gone on to do some of the toughest Ironman events in the world and continues to push himself to the limit in order to help others in respect to charity. Next week, Enda graces the stage of the Pendulum Summit here in Ireland, and I'm certain he will inspire us all with his heartfelt humour and inspiration. Enda, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Doug. You know, I'm a big fan of the show. I've driven on the M50 a million times, listening to it, and said, God, they're great people. I'd love to get on that show. So I'm so privileged and so honored to be on the show with you today. I will tell you too, Doug, listening to that introduction, I have the same feeling every single time. I'm thinking, God, that guy sounds interesting. God, that sounds crazy. And then I go, oh, that's me.
Well, I have to say, I have had nobody on this show that has done 9 marathons in 8 days carrying a washing machine. What possessed you to do that?
Yeah, well, as my wife would call it, Doug, midlife crisis part 1. So I had completed a couple of Ironman events, and in my own life history, I know very much what it's like to walk in dark clouds of depression, anxiety, and to be suicidal. And I promised myself as an alcoholic when I got sober and when I got fit and strong that I was going to give back. And I decided that I wanted to raise money for mental health charity, but I also wanted to have people, particularly men, talk about the importance of looking for help when you're under pressure. So the washing machine unashamedly was to get media attention, and it worked. Look, I'm here on your radio show. It was also to raise money, but most important was a core message, was to say to people, don't carry something stupid around. If you're under pressure, if you have a problem, if you have an issue, put that load down, ask for help, and it could save your life. And, you know, the tragic thing is that this week in Ireland, 8 or 10 people will lose their lives to suicide. And, you know, you get that awful phone call or that awful message that someone has taken their own life. And this reason was they were carrying a load that was just unbearable. The pain was unbearable, and they saw this as their only way out. So my simple mental health message with the washing machine was, don't carry something stupid around, put it down. And I think we'll both agree, Doug, it was the world-class stupidity level to carry a washing machine. It was 9 marathons in 8 days. So we walked out of the door of the Europa Hotel. We did about 30 miles every day. So I'm told, because I have patchy memories on some of it. But we arrived back to Waterford 9 days later. What an amazing adventure.
Wow. And it's so true what you say. There's so many of us that carry around that baggage. And really, as you say, talking about it is one of the most important things. And having had a near-death experience that was largely down to stress, depression, stuff like that led to it in terms of the operations that led to the near-death experience, I can say that I truly believe that we come down to this planet to learn, to grow, to evolve, to become better versions of ourselves and test ourselves to the ultimate. So if anybody is out there even thinking about it, I truly believe, and this is just my belief, that you'll end up having to come down and do the whole test all over again. So you might as well get it out of the way this time rather than having to do like a Groundhog Day again. But in terms of Groundhog, I mean, 9 marathons in 8 days. I mean, your feet must have been in bits afterwards.
Yeah, look, so I apologize to anyone eating or drinking listen to this, but pretty soon we had about 40 degrees heat the week we walked from Belfast, which doesn't sound right at all in Ireland. But within a day or two, I had hallucinations. The main road turned into a snake. I was walking on this giant snake for 5 or 6 hours a day. Very, very quickly, I lost all of my toenails on both feet. I lost the fat pads at the front of my feet. Then my heels came off. And when I say the heels, I don't mean the heels of my boots. I mean my physical heels came off. I was in a bad way. I had what can only be described, Doug, as Chernobyl diarrhea. It glowed in the dark. It was horrendous. I had something called leaky gut because I was eating so many calories every hour to keep carrying the washing machine that the calories began to leak into my bloodstream. So I was very, very ill. And then it got really hard because I broke my 2 feet. I broke the metatarsals in each foot. So I don't know if you've ever tried walking with broken feet while carrying a washing machine with diarrhea. It's a bit of a challenge, but do you know, I'm so excited to speak at Pendulum next week, and I'm so grateful to Frankie and his team for having me come. But one of the things that I'll be saying at that is, you know, ironically, the decision I had on the start line was to take one more step, take the first step. And the decision I had on the ninth marathon with all of those problems was just take one more step. And, you know, in my experience in life and working with different businesses and different teams and speaking conventions and coaching people, it's at the point where you're crushed. It's at the point where you think you can't go on. That's where the victory is. And it's so profoundly simple. One more step was all I had to do. You know, we used to get back to the hotel each night and the physio and with a medical team, and people would say, "Hey, did you meet that woman? And do you remember that house? Or did you see that car?" And I saw nothing because I was so focused on the ground in front of me. My hands were clasped together. Anyone watching this on YouTube will see my hands were in prayer position like that. The washing machine is at my back, and I just focused on one more step. And it's so simplistic, but it worked, and we got back to Waterford.
Yeah, I love that, and it's so true. I actually had Liam Ryan on the radio show as well, who had a brain tumor, which he was told he had a month to live, and he could walk afterwards. And he had the goal of running a marathon again. And gradually, it was about breaking that goal down to smaller baby steps. And sometimes when we have those large steps, those large goals, it looks too much. But if, as you say, if you can break them down into smaller steps, one step at a time, it can lead
Yeah,
you towards.
it's you know, sometimes as a motivational speaker, people think that I'm going to give them this magnificent 15-tier program and development and plan, and sometimes in life we miss the obvious. Like, you know, if before I came on the show with you today, I went to the toilet, but before I went to the toilet, Doug, I did 10 push-ups, and before I washed my hands, I did 10 push-ups. Now I'll save anyone listening the problem of doing the maths. That equates to 32,000 push-ups in a year. And at 32,000 push-ups, my man boobs are large, but they don't jiggle. They're rock solid. Um, I'm I'm able to bench somewhere around 150 kilos at the moment, and I'm not in peak condition. But it's the simple thing again of persistent, consistent effort. You know, some people say to me, "How the hell can you carry a washing machine that far?" And it was persistent, consistent effort. And I think too, people need to realize it's about work ethic. Um, you know, so many things are instant. You know, you want a friend, click add. You want to get rid of a friend, click delete. You know, you want a meal, add water. But there are some things in life that aren't instant, that are painful, difficult, challenging. But that's where the magic is. That's why this adventure literally changed my life, because it pushed me to my very, very limits. And it really did transform my life. And I would say too, including the Kilimanjaro, climbing Kilimanjaro with the washing machine, it transformed the lives of the people who came with us. So many people, they ended relationships, they changed jobs, some people ran for politics, people wrote books. It really made us focus on the fact that, you know, truly anything is possible. I sort of am wary telling people that I work as a motivational speaker, particularly with our American cousins, because you know the way American motivational speakers are some, yeah, you can do this, and you know, if you feel the magic, put your hand in the air. Like, we're different being in Ireland, but I truly believe that in my life experience that, you know, anything is possible. I think too that probably the biggest difficulty that people have in achieving their goals and achieving great things, you know, your number one enemy is in the mirror. If you're driving in the car right now, have a look in the mirror, be careful. But it's ourselves. You know, we tell ourselves, I'm not tall enough, I'm not funny enough, I'm not fast enough, I'm not rich enough, they won't like me, they won't listen. We tell ourselves all of these negative things. And when things go wrong in life or when we fail, then we go, I knew it all along. And you probably did know it all along, because you've probably programmed yourself to fail, and you've probably talked yourself into failure. You know, I was working with a very large corporate recently, and I gave everyone in the room a challenge. I said, write down in your diary this week every time you say something bad in your head about yourself. Because when you look at that list at the end of the week, if someone working with you or your family or friend spoke that much negativity about you, you'd have nothing to do with them ever again. But we think it's completely normal to beat ourselves up on a daily basis, you know?
No, I totally agree. I always say in my speeches, I always say, your word is your wand, and the sentences you say can sometimes be the sentences you condemn yourself and others to. So be very careful about what you word to create what you want rather than what you don't want. And
Yeah.
in terms of that, I'm wanting to get my book launched, which is just about to happen. But I can see, obviously, you have, and you've got a fantastic book which you've launched called "I'm Fine." Tell us a little bit about that, and tell us a bit how it can add to, value to people.
Yeah, well, the book is entitled "I'm Fine," and if anyone's keen to get it, you can get it on endaodoherty.ie, and it's still available in lots of bookshops. But the story of the book was at my darkest times, Doug, when I was really clinging on to life. In a work sense, I was suited and booted. I had an immaculate suit, white shirt. I was first in, last out. I was Mr. Happy. I have a beautiful car. I'm married to a beautiful woman. I have fantastic, successful kids. I have a lovely house. I had absolutely everything, but I didn't have happiness. And happiness and hope I were missing from my life. And I can remember sitting in my bathroom at 4 a.m, having panic attacks, having night terrors, terrified because of the detox coming out of alcohol. I was unaware that I had panic attacks. I was unaware that I had anxiety disorder, depression, because I was medicating it with 3 to 4 bottles of whiskey a week. But I would never miss a day's work, never let anyone down, and you would never see me drunk ever. But the book title is "I'm Fine." Someone said the book is a perfect cover for radio, Doug. I love that description. The title of the book is "I'm Fine" because that's what I told people. People say, "How are you?" "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm great." But the picture in the book is me screaming because that's how I really was. And it was that lie that I was living. But, it's not meant to be a book of misery. I don't know if any of your listeners have gone to hear a motivational speaker, particularly one who's had tragic times. And I know we've shared in the past that we all seem to have certain traits, but when I speak about resilience and mental health and mindset and success, there's a little bit of my dark side of my story in it, but I'm going to say it's no more than 2 minutes of the story, because I've had the experience where I've heard someone speak about the difficulties in their life. The chap who tells you that he was addicted to jelly tots, and his mother beat him every night with a frozen cat or something like that. And that night I go home and I'm God, I nearly want jelly tots, or I want, it's impinged on you in a negative way. And I think what I love about your show, and I love about your style, and I love about the guests is, we're here to lift people. It's the power of words. It's the passion of what we believe in that changes people's lives. And whether I'm working with an individual or a team or a corporate, for me, it's about impact. Like, can I make people see life in a different way? Can I make them feel in a different way? I was working in Belfast with a company a couple of weeks ago, Doug, and I didn't want to go. That's why I won't say their name. I just didn't want to work, because even motivational speakers lack motivation sometimes. And I was getting out of bed, and my wife had the quilt pulled up around her nose, and she had a cup of coffee, and she had the electric blanket on, and she was watching something on TV. And she called me as I was going down the stairs. And I thought she was going to say to me, will you get another cup of coffee or turn the dishwasher on or something like that? And I was a bit cross, and I flustered, came back into the room, and I had the car keys in my hand. And I said, yeah, what is it? What is it? What is it? And she said, "You look beautiful in that suit." And the power of those few words for the entire day. She is partially blind and didn't have her glasses on, Doug. I'm going to tell you that. And maybe she was lying, but I'm going to tell you the power of those words. For the entire day, I was on my toes. People said, "God, you have so much energy. You're great. Are you always this happy?" And it was that one sentence. And the fundamental thing about us as humans is our humanity. We have the ability to raise people or to crush people with our words. And I always say to people, be so careful. The guy or the girl that you're talking today, who, like my book says, "I'm fine," they could be on their last legs. Their resistance, their end, and what you say can have a massive impact on them. And it's so true that, like, we're here for a very short period of time. Like, I don't want to ruin the vibe. I know your show is upbeat and happy, but the average person listening to this, Doug, is only going to live 28,000 days. That's all you get. So if you're sitting on the couch eating pizza and watching endless box sets, you're not living. You're just surviving. You're very like the hamster that's in the cage, and just looking out, just not contributing, not growing, not having a spirit, not having a soul. And we're about so much more, I think.
No, I totally agree. I think a lot of people, obviously, in our kind of walk of life, we talk a lot about purpose and creating purpose and why in your life. But I think sometimes as well, the purpose of life is just to enjoy the five senses in terms of sight, hearing, touch, taste, and everything like that. And quite often there are people who can't do that. They can't see properly. They can't hear properly. So enjoy the sight of the sun, the stars, the beautiful seaside, and everything that we have here in Ireland. And when you can appreciate the small things in life, it opens you up to receive more as well. So next week, you're obviously going to be on the stage inspiring thousands of people at the Pendulum Summit. Give us a little bit of a sneak insight into terms of what you're going to be talking about.
So my presentation is entitled The Brilliance of Resilience, and I'm going to be talking about, I suppose I have powerful keynotes. I'm going to be talking about, when people are successful in their goals, whether it's corporate, sporting, personal, why do they succeed? And for me, I'll be looking at the key idea that it's finding your why. It's, you can make a plan, you can change a plan, you can have a process. But at the core of it, that energy, that desire to keep pushing when things go pear-shaped, what's your why and how will it make you be successful? I'm also going to be talking about, the idea that for a long time, I was very embarrassed about being an alcoholic. But the truth of it is your weakness can be flipped on its head and can become your superpower. So at its center, I suppose, an alcoholic is someone who's obsessed with alcohol. But I'm always going to be obsessed with stuff, Doug. I mean, look, I've been obsessed about getting ready for your radio interview. I've been obsessed. I have 100 hours plus into a 15-minute presentation for Pendulum. But that's now my gift. It's my superpower. And all I need to be sure is to turn, that focus for positive things. So I'll be talking about how people can turn their weaknesses into their strengths. I'll also be talking about the fact that, life isn't meant to be easy. Sometimes with Instagram and TikTok, we have all these beautiful filters, beautiful people with beautiful, perfect lives. And, the truth is life is messy, dirty, hard. Life can kick you, life can break you. But we're still a master of that process. One of my key lines I love talking about is the idea that people are masters of their own destiny. At some time in the future, hopefully the distant future, when you sit on your deathbed, you look back at all of the things that happened in your life. There's one key character who was part of every single story. Like it or not, we were there. And equally so, when we look at all the things that messed up in our lives, we were also there. So really, it's about thinking. I'll be talking about the idea of, grasping your life and literally squeezing the juice from it. Doug, I won't say the newspaper, but a journalist interviewed me recently. And this guy, he was a young journalist. And he said to me, Enda, you live your life like you're terminally ill. And I said, I am. And the poor guy nearly fell off the chair. He was like, oh my God, my editor never told me. I am so sorry. Oh my God, this is so embarrassing. And I said, you are as well. It's just you're 23. You don't know it yet. I said, I'm 54. I can hear that clock behind me right now going tick tock, tick tock. And like I try to live every day like it is my last day, as cliched as it is. Like I'm out of bed at 5:30. This morning, Doug, I got out of bed. I went for a walk behind my house where I live in Waterford City. If you can imagine this, Waterford Castle, beautiful medieval castle on an island in the middle of the river, and the freshwater dolphins are swimming up and down past the castle. You couldn't design it on AI. Amazing. Everyone I met was smiling. And I was thinking, have I met a lot of smiley people today? Or are the people who are up early exercising of a different mindset, even at stupid o'clock, whatever time it was? Like I begin my day by learning, by reading something. I begin like, somebody said to me last year on Valentine's, well, did you bring your wife breakfast in bed? And I said, yes, I did. But I didn't explain to this person, we have breakfast in bed every single day of our lives because life is so busy sometimes. That 40 minutes where we have the coffee and the breakfast, if she doesn't see me and I don't see her, when we do see each other later on the day, we're banjaxed, So beginning the day for me, exercise, it's my sleeping tablet. It's my mental health medication. I have to lift, I have to exercise every single day. But if you continue to, extrapolate that out back to what we said earlier, that constant effort, that makes for a great day, makes for a great week, makes for a bloody great month. I think when I was struggling, Doug, I used to hope that I'd have a great day or that happiness would visit me like it was, the tooth fairy. And then I realized I actively need to spend time with people who inspire me, do things that make me healthier and happier. And then I'm happier far more of the time. And I promise anyone listening to this today, like I say, you're a master of your own destiny. Don't sure, bad things happen in life and we have to be resilient and we have to get through them. But we have huge control over huge aspects of our life. So I'd encourage anyone listening to this, grab control of your life.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love loads of things you just said there. And as you said, life is a gift. And I think we need to embrace that as well in terms of every single day waking up with a zest. And as you say, you are the master of your ship. Make sure that you put it in the right direction and add aligned short step goals towards that direction of whatever your purpose, your why might be, which can be done by writing down, what you love doing, what you're good at doing in terms of your skill sets, and also how you can add value and give to others through those as well. And then you'll be on the right track. And I love the fact you said about, in terms of the end of your life, you're not going to look back really, I believe, in how much money you've got. You're going to look back at how many hearts you've touched, and that comes down to kisses, hugs, and kind words, and living a
Yeah.
life of love.
Yeah. Do you know, Doug, when we climbed Kilimanjaro with the washing machine, I mean, people all over the world know Irish people are different and they like our sense of humor and, our music. And I can still see the face of the Tanzanians when this Irish fella gets off a bus with a washing machine strapped to his back and looks up at the clouds. And if anyone's listening to this, if you look up at the clouds from where you are right now, we were, if you can imagine this, 3 days walk above those clouds with 120 people and a washing machine. It was the most amazing adventure. On the first day, I wouldn't recommend it, but I got sick all over my wife with altitude sickness. I vomited on her. She wasn't very impressed with me, Doug. The romance went out the window. But I was lying on the ground and I was like really ill. And one of the Tanzanians walked past and he said, Hakuna Matata. And I was about to tell this guy where he could stick his Lion King, right? Now, thankfully, I didn't, because I'm sure many of your listeners listening to this will know that the Lion King characters and the language is written in Swahili, the language of the beautiful people of Tanzania. And Hakuna Matata was, you'll be okay, you'll be fine. It basically means keep going, and what an adventure to be on. I remember one of the days my fingernails were completely green. They were just horrible. And I was muddy and snotty and vomit, everything, you name it, I had my hands in. I turned to one of the Tanzanians and I showed this guy my hand. I said, ugh, I said, Emmanuel, I said, what's that on my hand? And he said, that's adventure. And it's those moments in the book and those moments in my life that I love to speak about. When we came down off the mountain, Doug, and there's a video, and you can see it in my promo video. There's a clip, but we gave the Tanzanians, a big tip for their help, and we gave them a tricolor so that the next Irish group that came through, they'd have the flag. And they wrote a song about me. They wrote a song in Swahili called Madu Machine Ana Kama Simba. I don't know if you've ever had a tribe write a song about you, Doug, but I think it basically translated to washing machine man, strong like a lion. And if you can imagine this, we're at the bottom of Kilimanjaro in the jungle, and they're dancing and singing, celebrating the life that they have and that we finished our adventure. And I remember I went to give my wife a kiss, and she sort of just gave me a straight arm push away because I hadn't washed for 8 days, I hadn't shaved, and I was a mess. I was a complete mess. And I went to give her a kiss, and she was like, "No." And I was a bit sulky, as men can get. And then she sort of pulled me a little bit closer, and for me, the magic, we're talking about the power of words. My wife just said to me, she said, if our kids have 1% of your spirit, they'll be lucky people. And even saying it to you now, years later, it floored me. I mean, I talk a lot, as you can probably tell. You're lucky to get a word in this interview, but I didn't say a word for 2 days. I was just blown away. And it's back to what we were talking about. We can lift people with our words. We all can, not just us as speakers, but everyone has a duty to do that,
I love that. And something you mentioned, obviously, was the Lion King, and actually something I've used before on stage is that when in the Lion King, Simba, or whatever his name is, gets whacked by the monkey, he says, "Why did you do that?" And the monkey says, "It doesn't matter. It's in the past." And quite often we get wrapped up in the past, in what's happened in the past. And at the end of the day, the past is history. The future is a mystery, and the present is a gift. So live in that, and live with love in that as well. So obviously we got about 2.5 minutes left, and I'd really love to know a little bit about what is next in terms of Enda. I mean, I know you've got your Mighty Mini podcast, but what else is next in the agenda?
Oh, listen, one of the things I used to overstress and worry what's next, and I could tell you what I'm doing at 3 o'clock, at 3:03, at 3:05, and then I realized this was just going to drain my energy. I suppose what's next is I'd love to write a second book. What's happened to me, Doug, in recent times is I didn't realize that I had the gift to tell people stories, to lift people, and the amount of conferences, the amount of teams, the amount of businesses, from rugby teams to individuals that I've been working with. I suppose what lies ahead for me is, hopefully to work far more in the States, in the United Kingdom. I love what I do. I love that craft. I love changing people. So I suppose that's what's ahead for me. Probably another book. Ideally, I'd love to bring my washing machine to China. I'd love to do 100 miles on the Great Wall of China. And I'd love to arrive being able to speak Cantonese, because that would be a physical challenge, a mental challenge. And I'd like to make a difference to the people that I brought with me and to the people that I met. Long answer, Doug.
I love that. Well, I actually know the president of the Chinese European Business Association, so maybe I can help organize that for you, which would be definitely something that you would be amazing. And just in terms of how can people get in touch with you? Obviously, if anybody out there is looking for an inspiring speaker who actually brings a heartfelt sense of humor into his inspiration as well, definitely get in touch with Enda. But how can they actually get in touch with you to bring them into their organizations, their companies, summits, or even conferences?
Well, the easiest way is you can find me through endaodoherty.ie, or I'm sure you can find me through any of the speaker agencies, particular Front Row and Frankie's team at Pendulum. I'm sure they'd be delighted to set you up with me with some meetings, or to organize your event. I suppose the nice thing is, Doug, I have the most universal business card. After this interview, if you say, I can't remember that guy's name, all you do is Google Irishman washing machine, and I promise you, there's only one of me.
Yeah, I don't know anyone else who's ever come on my radio show or even heard of who's done that before, which is phenomenal. But let's remind everybody that that's not just about a fun thing. You actually did raise 300,000 plus for one of the leading mental wellness charities in Ireland, which is called Pieta House, and have gone on to raise lots more in lots of different charities as well. We've run out of time.
I thought, Doug, when we started out, I thought it was about raising the money. And then as we got into it, I realized it was about raising people's hope and raising people's awareness. And that's what really matters. That this is the amazing thing about your radio show and the amazing thing about this interview. I promise you, anyone listening to this who's going through a hard time, behind every dark storm clouds, there is a beautiful silver lining. And reach out, ask for help. And wouldn't it be wonderful to think today's interview saved one person's life?
Absolutely. It's a real shame because we've run out of time.
That's okay. You can chop some of the rubbish from earlier on.
Enda, it's been an absolute pleasure having you.
Doug, thanks a million.
I wish you every success.
Thank you, Doug. Somebody said I'm like chili sauce. I'm delicious in small amounts, but if you have another dose of this, you'll be sick. Come here. Thank you for having me on. It was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. That felt like 30 seconds, and I was exhausted today and tired, and I didn't feel like that when I was talking to you. You can really tell when someone knows what they're doing, Doug. You just let me go when it was time and brought me back when it was time too. So thank you. Superb. Really superb.
My pleasure. And you've been listening to Enda O'Doherty on Inspirational People, Inspirational Stories. I'm back next week with another inspirational guest.